hot sauce in my bag, swag.
Real Housewives, it's just not giving like it was. There just feels like there was a huge change this time around. I had so much to say about Ralph and Drew's sit down because that was crazy in my opinion. Like, it's so funny to me that Ralph is working so hard to convince us that Drew is this big liar. All her storylines are fake. She's phony. She wanted me to adopt her kid for money. Like, all this bullshit, right? It is so clear from watching that sit down, that man is a fucking liar and the most major gaslighter. Like, the way he spoke to Drew and the way he would lie, but in the same breath then admit it, like, I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, there is actually something the matter with you. And the fact that Courtney was there caping for him, jumping up and down like side chick of the year. I mean, bitch, we don't have receipts, but we know you were side chick of the year. It was just like, what is all this for? Like, she has your children. Do you know what I mean? Like, I still feel like regardless of what's transpired between the two of you, there's such a huge level of disrespect here. Like, why are you bringing on this woman to co-sign with you who you know doesn't see it for your wife? Why are you sitting amidst this group of women and gaslighting her and acting like everything that comes out of her mouth is a lie? Because I've said in my past reviews and on my TikToks, people like to make a big deal out of Drew lying. I really don't get why. Because number one, you all lie. Like, all of them on that show lie. Kenya, Sheree, Candy, Courtney, Sanya, Marlo. Every last one of them hoes lies. So why is it different for Drew? Especially when what she's lying about is her business. Like, the LaToya thing, I couldn't care less, honestly. It's not going to change my life whether she kisses LaToya or not. Whether she admits it or not, don't give a fuck. So I'm much less invested in that story than everybody else, clearly, because everyone seems so upset about the fact that she's lying about it. But regardless, what does that have to do with Ralph? Like, I'm not really understanding. What does that have to do with Ralph doing the shit he's been doing? Like, we have seen with our own eyes that Ralph ain't shit. So I really don't understand why people are trying to rewrite history now. It's so obvious that Drew lies about little things. But I don't think, and she probably is lying about hooking up with Ty. She definitely is lying about hooking up with Ty, but I don't believe she lied to Ralph. That's what I think. I think that Ralph knew. Because, let's be real, number one, especially with the way he's been acting with her doing the movie, I don't believe that if she was hooking up with a woman, he'd have an issue with it, personally. Even if it was a stud and not, you know, a woman that he'd probably prefer watching her hook up with, you know? Like, I feel like in the mindset of the man that I saw going to visit her on set, I personally don't think he'd be divorcing her because she hooked up with a woman. That's what I believe. So I think that there's a chance that she could have lied to Ralph, but I think it's more likely that he knew or that she told him anyway, which is why she brought Ty to his birthday party. And regardless, let's say that it was a big deal for him and she never told him, cool. Essentially, you're trying to paint a narrative that you're this choir boy and you've never done shit to her. Sir, Tampa. Remember Tampa? And we know that he's been fucking hoes outside of Tampa too. Like, it's just obvious. You just know. Like, Ralph is that type. And he's a fuckboy enough that he'll bring his side chick on the show. So please stop trying to act like because Drew hooked up with Ty, it was this huge disloyalty and betrayal and that's why your marriage ended. And everything else that Drew says about you now is a lie. Because at the end of the day, you're saying that she tried to get you to adopt her son for a money grab, all of this. But weren't you writing a whole book about the fact that you wanted to adopt him? So what the fuck are you talking about? Make it make sense. Like, that's just so dumb to me. And the fact that he didn't say anything about Courtney making that comment about Josiah, because I think it's just so wrong that Courtney made that comment. And she's made it so passionately because she feels like she's doing what Ralph asked her to. So that to me shows how fucked up he is. And I couldn't for the life of me believe how much they were trying to paint this narrative that Drew's this big liar, that this is all for shows and stunts, but most of the stuff that she was saying to him, he either did not deny the things about blocking the therapist, mistreating her, dismissing her feelings, cheating on her. If you go back to that scene, that nigga never denied it one time. Yeah, when she cried, he said she was an actress. And yeah, when she said the thing about the DM, he said, oh, that's a bot or that's a catfish. And that might well be true. But Drew, right after he said that, also brought up many other messages on her phone that he conveniently talked over her for. He talked over her for that whole portion. But it sounded like every single time Drew opened her mouth, she had a new story to tell. So for me, as a woman, really trying to watch it and see what's good, it looks to me like Drew was telling the God's honest truth. Yeah, Ralph ain't shit. That's really all I have to say about Real Housewives. I don't really understand why Candy is so invested in this beef with Drew. I really don't feel like anything, like seeing the women like laugh and just basically act like they were there to be the spectators on Drew's trauma and laugh at the moments that where they felt were most hilarious. I don't know. I just felt like there was something very uncomfortable about that for me. Like, I feel like we in the past, when we see scenes like that, for example, Quad and Greg, when they had their moment when they were just going through a divorce in Married to Medicine, they had the opportunity to be alone on stage and for no one else to weigh in. And for them to really have their moment with Andy. Even fucking Kim and Kyle on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, they had a separate episode with Andy at the point where they were really falling out as sisters. So I didn't understand why, when it was Drew and Ralph, they had to have this audience of women that don't fuck with her. Like, I just felt like that wasn't really cool, and I felt for Drew in that moment, because I know me as a person, I couldn't handle that. Like, I couldn't handle a whole stage where women are going to chime in and make me feel even shittier about this shitty experience that they know nothing about, you know? And I'm very glad that Kenya spoke up for her, because nobody else apparently wanted to. And I didn't really understand that, because I was looking at all of them like, is your beef with Drew really that deep? Like, I just feel like as women on a show like Housewives, there has to be some kind of sister solidarity. Like, I feel like having a man come onto this show to embarrass and gaslight his wife to this extent, like, this is for me, quite a high level of emotional abuse. And for them women to just be co-signing it the whole time. Candy didn't laugh like Marlo and Sheree and the others did, but, you know, Candy to just kind of be there, like, making awkward face. And again, this could be production, but Candy just not saying anything, because Candy's meant to be Drew's friend, you know? Like, so her, like, going from on the show, her saying, and scene, the one time she cried, and then to go to this, I'm just looking at Candy like, bitch, are you kind of Mama Joyce and we didn't see it till now? Because it's giving mean old lady. Like, I don't understand. Like, is it really that deep that Drew said you were lying about some shit that she made very clear that she didn't want to talk about on camera and that she was going to lie about if it came up again? Like, is it that serious? Is it really that deep? I don't know. I just thought it was fucked up. But hey, that's just me. And also, the reunion was so weirdly produced. Like, is there a new production team or something? Because I didn't really understand why. It felt like they were just dropping things and not marinating on them. A little bit like Top Boy, because they would drop, like, Drew's receipts or Sheree's receipts on Drew. Candy did say that they talked about it more in depth, and I would assume that that is the case. But it's just weird that they brought them here and said they were the shadiest receipt of all time or whatever, and then didn't elaborate on it. There was no comment. There was no even verification as to whether or not this was true. Maybe they were trying to spare Drew's feelings and her privacy. Maybe it's to do with the fact that there's a lawsuit pending with her and Ralph, and maybe legally they can't talk about it. I've never claimed to be, you know, a legal head like that. So perhaps I'm wrong, but I felt like perhaps that's the reason, because I really don't understand the point of producing this if you're not going to really elaborate on it. But anywho, that's Real Housewives of Atlanta.
I got hot sauce in my bag, swag.